All right, what is up, folks? So I'm just sitting here in this classroom contemplating about my life. So I just found out about all of this very recently. So yeah, I have a cousin who's 4 years younger than me. I just found out, during my trip back to China from my aunt that she actually moved to Canada a couple years ago, and she's living in the Greater Toronto area. I'm not sure if she's actually married. She's at least engaged, I think. So her boyfriend, fiance is this tall, super rich Chinese guy. And just a few days ago, I also found out, I have a older half sister. That's the really crazy one. A very messy situation that's going on for her. But so I also have a younger half sister. I have a lot of half siblings and cousins and stuff because all the divorces in my family is very, very complicated. So this cousin of mine, we actually grew up together. She also grew up with our parents. Yeah, we were both raised by my maternal grandmother. So she's been living in Canada for a couple years now, and I've seen some photos my aunts showed me. The house this Chinese guy owns, their home is probably worth at least I would say $3 million. Well, $3 million, I'm saying this is Canadian dollars. So if you live in America, that's maybe 2.2, 2.3 US dollars million. So, I mean, yeah, they have a massive mansion. I just found out very, very recently. So my sister, who is also 4 years younger, so these two women, they will be 28 or 29 by now. So she's been married for a while now, my younger half sister, and she also lives in the Greater Toronto area. So from what I heard, right, the guy she's married to is very, very tall and very, very rich, and they have a mansion also in the GTA. Yeah, and I'm just sitting here, I'm contemplating my life. I'm thinking maybe I was born into the wrong body. I think I'm like a lesbian that's trapped in a man's body. It doesn't matter what modern women say. It doesn't matter what anybody says. I don't care what your professor's telling you. I don't care about any other content creators, whatever they're saying on the internet. But the reality is that, women are born with values into this world. I mean, just look at me, right? These are my direct family members. I mean, just look at myself, right? I consider myself to be a, fairly ugly guy, right? Here's the thing, right? If I wasn't below average, if I was actually like, Superman or Batman or something, right? If I was like the Incredible Hulk or something, then my dating life will be 10 times easier. And I look at my female family members, right? Just imagine, right, the female equivalent of me, right? The fact that my mom can afford to get married 7 times. And yeah, right now there's still guys that's lined up for her. She's 65 now. She's 64 now. And there are guys in her inner circle are saying that, oh yeah, when you get divorced for the 7th time, I'll be your 8th husband. The fact I have aunts in my family who has been divorced 2, 3, 4 times. My sister, she's in her 4th marriage, right? And there's constantly guys lining up for them, right? And just look at, my younger cousin and my younger half sister, right? They're married. By the way, the two guys, and they married, they're both Chinese guys. But, they're not the regular average Joe. Like, I'm only 5'8". So those two Chinese guys are very tall. Yeah, just imagine that, right? How crazy is that? Absolutely normal, average Chinese girls, they can all afford it to marry very, very tall, very much in shape, and Chinese millionaires. Why do I say they're millionaires? Well, obviously, I've seen the pictures of their houses, right? And nowadays, I'm sure you guys understand with, inflation, the price of housing, the cost of everything, right? If you can afford a single detached home, right, in the Greater Toronto area or in Vancouver, right? So if you live in the United States, that's the equivalent of owning a single detached home in New York City or LA, right? I'm sure you guys know how crazy the housing market is in those two cities. So yeah, I mean, these guys must be filthy rich. Sometimes I do imagine, like, what if, I was actually born with XX chromosomes, right? And honestly, right, the previous generation, right, these Chinese parents, man, the boomers, the Gen X, the silent generation, I'm sorry to say, though, to all those Chinese people, you guys can all go F-U-C-K yourselves, honestly, right? Due to the fact that, tens of millions of these Chinese parents, they willingly chose to abort their baby Chinese girls, leading to this crisis of, roughly 35 million excess men in China. And obviously, that's a part of the reason why. So once again, right, bringing back, the keyword of leftover woman. When I was growing up, the late 1990s, I think that's when the word popped up. So it used to be 27, you become a shengnu if you're not married. Now they pushed it back because, so many women are getting married at a much later age. So now it's 30. So at 30 years old, you're considered to be a leftover woman, right? But see, at least, my younger half sister and my cousin, they're very, very smart, and they know that, even though women are born with values, but they all have a biological clock. And as every single day that ticks by, they're not getting any more beautiful, they're not getting any more attractive. So they know that if they want to secure a high value man, they got to do it young. So they both got married when they're in their 20s. So good for them. Also, and just I want to bring back the topic on, when I talked about, white beauty standard, white privilege. If you as a normal white guy understand there are a lot of really ugly white people out there as well, but those are the extreme exceptions, right? If you're as a normal, regular white dude, right, if you're struggling with finding a girl with dating, then yeah, you really, really have to get your shit together. I'm sorry to say, but even in 2025, with everything, with all the chaos that's going on, white men are still considered to be the most attractive race by far. Honestly, I'm surprised that my cousin and my sister, they didn't marry a white guy. They both ended up marrying Chinese guys. But here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, right, all of that, your ethnicity, your height, your jawline, and your physical shape, I think that's all secondary. I think the reason why, both of these Chinese guys got married is because they have a massive mansion, right? That's why they call women chicks. It's not controversial, it's not misogynistic, because what do chicks look for? They look for a nest. This is especially true about Chinese women, right? If you're a Chinese guy who is not particularly tall, who is not particularly in shape, or is not particularly good looking, but if you have a house, right, you can find a Chinese woman that is going to marry you. And here's one tip I'm going to give all of you guys, right? If you're a guy anywhere, right, in any part of the world, if you're struggling, right, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Chinese, Indian, Arab, right? So yeah, I like the example I just giving you guys, right? I mean, yeah, the dating game is really, really rough for Asian guy. I mean, way worse than white guys, way worse than black guys or Latinos, man. At least you guys don't have to deal with all these terrible negative stereotypes, like the small penis thing. Well, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the dicks too much for this video, but yeah, I did say in previous videos, yeah, I don't have a huge dick, unfortunately, right? I gotta be 100% honest. But yeah, having a big dick is a huge advantage also in the dating market. So, but the most important thing for you is that, right, once again, you can't change your dick size, you can't change your height, but having a house, I think that is something that's manageable. And obviously, if you're a normal, 25-year-old, right, let's say that's living in Canada or America, you might be asking, how the hell can I afford a home? Well, have you guys heard something about the inheritance? So it's probably too late for you to inherit something from your parents, because by the time they kick the bucket, you're probably going to be 50 or 60, right? So, I mean, to all the guys out there, right, doesn't matter which part of the world you live in, make sure you have a really, really good relationship with your grandparents, especially if you have great grandparents, right? If your great grandparents is 95 years old, maybe he has cancer and he's been bedridden for the past couple of years. I'm sorry to say, but unfortunately, death is inevitable, right? It's going to come to all of us. You gotta make sure you can raise up your grandparents or your great grandparents. Because, the vast majority of the wealth, right, in the world is concentrated on a very small percentage of people. And the vast majority of these people are pretty old. So, by the time your grandparents or great-grandparents, when they kick the bucket, the chances are they're going to leave behind a massive mansion. Yeah, there's your opportunity. A house is generational wealth, right? Once again, right, just that one item, and that can completely change your life. So your basically your attractiveness towards women, and any normal guy by 2025 standards, you're probably a 2 out of 10. But once you have a house, you just go straight from 2 to 8. You're no longer mid, right? You're in the top 10, top 15% at least. So yeah, I'm serious. I think that's the best advice I can give to all the guys out there. You gotta somehow, some way, right? You gotta be able to find a way to somehow to get inheritance from your grandparents or your great grandparents. And boom, just like that, you can instantly find a girlfriend, you can find a wife, get married, and have children, and continue your bloodline. Once again, I'm not going to make this video too long, so I'm going to end the topic right here. And I will see you guys back on Friday. Once again, I have another 30-minute video. I'm going to talk about Qin Shi Huang, the first man to unite China. I'm going to talk a little bit about masculinity, because we're men. So yeah, that video is going to be saved until the end of next week. And I will see you guys back here on Friday. Thank you guys so much.